Thank you so much. It's such an honor, Enrique. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. So the topic today is the intersection of people, culture, tech, and the future of work. And the title of my talk is The Future of Work, but for whom? And that's the provocative question I really want to bring to this conversation tonight. So I'll tell you a little story. As you heard from Jill, I am not in HR. I did not start my career in HR. I'm a teacher at my core. And about 2.5 years ago, I decided I really wanted to expand my networks. I spent my life doing change and transformation work, first in classrooms, teaching high school students in urban communities. Then I went on to do school design, opening progressive schools in the San Francisco Bay Area as a part of an activist movement called the Small Schools Movement. And then I went on to the university to do teacher leadership development work, coaching teachers to be change leaders in their schools, to bring action research to their work. And now I'm at United Way doing that across sectors, real systems change work around low-income New Yorkers. So I left United Way a few and a half years ago because I really wanted to accelerate my impact and expand my work. I really wanted to become a tri-sector athlete and work with those in the corporate sector who were talking about issues around change and organizational design that were really, really exciting to me. And I went into these spaces, I was so excited and so serious about it, I somehow even ended up in a few interviews at small boutique consultancies, right? Who I thought were my tribe, we had shared values, we had shared vision. And what I realized was that it was a super duper love fest, yet they couldn't really see me. I didn't really feel like I fit or belong. When they saw my resume, they saw my background. We were talking about change and transformation. I'd done org design work, but they really couldn't. We were speaking different languages, right? We had different frameworks. They were like, oh, have you been in the corporate space? Oh, we're not really sure, right? And so I ultimately felt like I didn't belong, and I made it my business to become a part of the future of work community, to learn, to try to really bridge boundaries and cross bridges. And it made me really disconcerted and unhappy because I'm saying if we're here to talk about the future of work, I know that it is diverse. I know that there are many, many people with many social identities, with a lot of cognitive diversity, with a lot of backgrounds that need to come together, very much like Enrique said. We are not going to solve these complex challenges by staying in our silos and not knowing how to cross cultural boundaries, right, at leaps and bounds. And I wonder, was it me? I have several advanced degrees, and United Way, we collect data on this. We actually look at wage gaps in New York City across various social identities. And what you will see when you look at that data is that even if you are a woman and a woman of color with an advanced degree, that you still suffer from income inadequacy, sometimes with white males who are less formally educated than you are. So having a degree is a part of the way, but it doesn't really get you there. And so what I want to talk about is really a messy concept: culture. A lot of us study organizational culture, but I really feel like we need to get really more complex about this. If you do org culture work, I recommend to you that you go, and my background is in social theory and cultural anthropology, so I read Clifford Geertz, The Interpretation of Cultures. We really need to figure out, how do people, right, create cultures? How do we make them? How do we unmake them? We should talk about an even messier concept, which is social identity. Social identity is very, very complex. I was just at an event last night on systemic gaps to inclusion in the workplace with Culture Amp. Nobel, the small boutique consultancy, just re-embraced this idea of culture and social identity. And when we looked at the data at Culture Amp last night, we saw that at every measure, when you ask people of different backgrounds and social identities whether or not they feel like they belong at work, they say that they don't. More straight white men feel like they belong in the workplace. When you ask people of color whether or not they feel like they have a voice, whether they feel like they're involved in decision making, whether it feels like there is fairness at work, even if they're as visible representational diversity, they do not feel that they are represented. So if you have a problem with belonging in your workplaces, then social identity is a concept that you really need to understand. There's an even messier concept: We're very comfortable in the workplace talking about things that are on the table. But what about those things that are under the table that people aren't talking about and above the clouds? Robert Marshak is one of my favorite scholars in thinking about covert processes at work. And if you haven't read his work, it's amazing because he lets you know and he helps you to understand that there's a lot going on in hidden dynamics at work. That if you aren't talking about them, if you can't say with confidence, right, and surety that you can manage those hidden dynamics in a diverse group of people sitting around the table, then there's more work to do as we build the future of work together. My assignment to you as I leave and finish this talk, because I left academia several years ago with all of my degrees because I felt like I wanted to make change faster and better in the world. And so I felt like the place to be was in the world, with people, in organizations, in schools, in institutions. And now I'm back this year at school with scholars because I really do feel that we need to disrupt and deconstruct the scholar-practitioner divide. I want you to join me on a learning journey over the next few years as I really go back and I say, why is this happening? How can we marry research with practice to better understand how we can create more diverse and inclusive workplaces? Intercultural competence, the ability to not only understand, but to be able to adapt your behavior, is very powerful. And what I love about this assessment, because it is an assessment, and I know assessments get a bad rap, I like assessments, the teacher in me, because you can actually see where am I in relation to where I could be, right? If you don't really know where you are when it comes to being able to understand and adapt your behavior in relation to others who are different from you, then you can't know how to improve and how to get better at it. So I leave you by saying, the future of work is not mine, it's not yours, but it is ours. And I really invite a collective problem solving around this work, right? The future of work is very diverse. Culture Amp reminded us last night, it is very intersectional, right? If you're a woman and a black woman and a trans black woman, right? Then you are less likely to feel like you belong. But what I leave you with tonight is saying the future of work is interdisciplinary, and I think that Enrique, we did not plan this, but that is basically how he opened this talk. We are not going to solve these problems if you stay in your silos, if you're reading the business text or the trade papers or white papers at a consulting agency, if you're not studying anthropology, sociology, racial theory, social theory, right? If you're not understanding all of these things and bringing them to this change, then we'll be in the same place 10 years from now. And so, thank you. And I look forward to collaborating and building bridges with you.